Hello, this is episode number 52 of the Silverfox Hustle podcast. I'm Shasi, your host, and at the end of this podcast or this episode, please click on the follow button on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and wherever. We are on YouTube as well. So, cheers to that. Now, today we have a very interesting guest because for the intro, I can tell you, I don't know whether I will do justice to this guy, my guest on this show, but I will try my best, right? I can really write a book about my next guest. He's written books actually, but no books on him yet, I think. All right. Now, he's an all-round sports person, all-rounder in terms of the number of sports that he does. Example, rugby, football, canoeing, kayaking, blah, 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 the list goes on. He's played rugby and represented the national team as well. Now, he went on to become a referee in the sport, rugby itself, and he did referee some major matches and was referee of the year too some time back. He is also an educator through and through. PE teacher, he was a lecturer and then became the assistant head of PE and sports sciences at NIE. Currently, he is the director of CoachSG at SportSG. Welcome to the Silverfox Hustle podcast, Mr. Azhar Yusof.
Thank you, Sashi. Appreciate the invitation. Wow, show number 52, wonderful.
Thank you so much. And it is what it is. I think the guest has made all the guests have made this podcast a success. So thank you very much. And you are number 52. Well done. Now let's start off, Azhar, and just a little bit. You are a rugby man.
Okay, I mean, if you were to single out just one sport that I take part in, yes.
Have you been following the Olympics? Because I have
Yes.
watched I think 2 days ago, I think it was a Great Britain play. Any thoughts on the rugby tournament so far, or the rugby games?
I think the favourites are still in there. Fiji,
Right.
New Zealand. So it'll be interesting. Today is the final day, actually.
So who's your favourite actually?
I would say for sevens it'll be Fiji.
Right.
But
right.
for 15s it'll be New Zealand All Blacks. Yeah.
Okay, well done. Now, let's go back and get to know you a little bit better because you by the way, you are pretty well known in the sports and teaching fraternity, especially in the PE side in Singapore, right? And you are a sports person through and through. Where did you get this from? You talk us through your growing up days as a young boy, Azhar.
I don't know where this came from, to be honest.
Really?
I mean, my dad has always been an active person, but not really into sport, but
Okay.
just, exercise and keeping himself physically active. So I guess I got it from him then.
Right.
But I suppose the rest will really be the exposure that I've had in schools,
Right.
in primary school and then secondary school.
Did you have like a siblings to play around with that got you started as well, or you just the
Again, no, I have a elder sister
Yeah.
and a younger brother.
right?
And they're not quite into sport.
Really?
Yeah, they're into like drama and the arts.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm maybe the kind of the odd one out.
Okay. Now, just before we move on, right? Can you reveal your age? How old are you?
I'm 48,
48 this year, right?
49 this year.
49 this
Yeah.
year. And listeners, if you're listening in, because I don't think you can tell, right? But just by looking at him, this guy here doesn't look like he's 48. He looks like the physique, and I'm sure fitness-wise, you are amazing. And I've seen, I wanted to ask you this at the back of the show, but let me ask you straight off, right? Because I think it was last year there was this push-up challenge. Remember the push-up
yes, sir.
challenge? What was that for? Because
That was for mental health.
mental health, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen this on Facebook and IG. People going through this. If you're listening in, you just go back a little and you'll know what this is about. The mental health push-up challenge, right? And you got to do how many every days?
25 push-ups.
Yeah,
every
25
day for
push-ups.
25 days.
Right, consecutively. Please go and Facebook Mr. Azhar Yusof and see what kind of push-ups he does and where he does it. And really, it was amazing. What was the inspiration behind that?
I was actually arrowed by my CEO.
Okay.
So he called me up one day and said, hey, I've just started on this challenge.
Yeah.
He was nominated by, a previous chairman of Sports Singapore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then he arrowed me, or he nominated me. And when he spoke to me, his intention was really because of my network amongst the coaches and teachers. He thought that it's a good time to rally the coaches and the teachers around this cause.
Yeah.
And I said yes to it almost immediately, and yeah, that's how I got started. Yeah, but I wanted to send a message out. So I don't know. I mean, if the audience here checking out my Facebook account, right?
They will.
You will know I go to different places, and I go to nature parks, I go to playground, because I just feel strongly that we're not encouraging kids to play enough. We need to get out there and play. We need to get out in the outdoors, and play, as you know from research, right, really provides you with that opportunity to find relaxation, to really slow things down, and make you feel good about yourself, both health and wellness and mental well-being and so on. So that was the intention. So if you look at the places I've gone to, it's actually outdoors playgrounds. Right. Yeah, so that was really it.
So basically the location was pretty simple, because you do that anyway every day, and then the push-ups, and again, like I said before, guys, if you're listening to this, just go and Facebook Azhar Yusof, and you'll see some wonderful push-ups, technique, brilliant form, as well as the location. And I think there was one he was doing up on top of a playground or something like that, right?
That was Pasir Ris.
And again, this is also about showing a good example as well. You talked about it at the beginning about kids not doing enough. I don't think, and I totally agree with you. And obviously, we are a little bit biased because we are from the PE background, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Now, talk to us a little bit about school, when you were schooling before. Which primary school, secondary school, and tertiary as well?
Well, they closed down the school, so it's no longer there. So it was Mata Primary.
Okay.
At Mata Road.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was my primary school, and then from there I went to Victoria School.
Okay.
And from Victoria School, wanted to go to Victoria Junior College.
Okay.
But I fell in love with rugby in Sec 4.
Okay.
And VJC didn't have a rugby team.
Right.
So I said, I'm not going to VJC.
Okay.
So I went to Anderson JC instead,
Okay.
and continued with my rugby.
Nice.
And then after that was School of PE, and the rest is history.
Nice. And how were you in school academically? Were you?
Okay. Primary school I was alright.
Okay.
And then things just went a little bit downhill.
What sports did you play primary, secondary school? And obviously, I think, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, about the rugby part, right?
Yeah.
But before that, what sports did you do?
Well, I guess it was P5 that I started playing a little bit of football. I was actually, when was it? Lower primary, I took up, I was in a band. I was in a brass band.
Okay.
I was
What
playing,
instrument?
Trumpet. Cornet first, and then progressed to a trumpet.
Okay.
And it was P5, P6 that I said I want to do a bit of more physical activity. Being in a brass band, sitting down playing instrument, not very much action, right?
Okay.
So I went into football.
Okay.
Pick up football, but there was only two options: football and basketball.
Like most of us do, right?
Yeah. So football, I guess, being the popular sport, I was exposed to it, and then I picked it up. So primary school, there was football.
Right. Nice. Okay, let's get into this one, right? Rugby. You started pretty late.
At Sec 4.
Considering what's happening now, people start young and whatever, especially if you want to specialize really into one sport and make it big, right? You started in Sec 4. Now tell me about your start in rugby, and why rugby?
So like I said, I picked up football in P5, P6, and then I kind of stopped for a while. Then when I went to secondary school, I picked it up again, and also football. But I never was good enough to be in the first team. So for Sec 1, Sec 2, Sec 3, and then your final year, right? You want your final year to be memorable, and then I still didn't make it to the to the first 11 school team. And then at the same time, there was a new teacher, Australian teacher that just came, joined the school, and he's a rugby fan. He's a rugby person, and he decided to set up a rugby CCA. Okay. So he had an open invitation.
So before this, there wasn't any rugby in that particular school, right?
Many years ago in VS, yes. Yeah. And then I guess because nobody wanted to continue, nobody was in love with rugby then at the school, so it was discontinued. Okay. So this guy came along, rugby person, called for open invitation, right? Open trust. Anybody and everybody can come in. So I said, my final year, what have I got to lose, right? Might as well give this a try. Yeah. And I fell in love with the game. Right. So rugby would be my first love, if you can put it that way.
What is it about it that you love? Because like you said, there wasn't any rugby, and then you said, what is there to lose, right? And then you went for the trials, but there must be something that sparked it. Like why would you love it so much?
I guess it's having ball in hand and being able to run everywhere you run. And then the contact.
Okay.
I like the contact, I like the physicality.
Really?
So
Okay.
that kind of attracted me to the sport.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Now, this is a good seg, right? Because you talked about the contact part, and if you ask like any uh, parents nowadays,
Mm.
you know, you choose between rugby and another sport, they would
Yeah.
probably not say rugby as their first choice, right? Because primarily for that fact, the contact part, right? Is rugby really a dangerous sport?
Well, I mean, if it's really dangerous, then you would have rugby players all covered up, right?
Yeah.
And if I were to compare with American football, where you have
Oh,
helmets and all the heavy paddings
Yes.
and all,
Yes.
and that's because you can hit that person even when they don't have the ball.
For
American
football,
yeah.
yes.
For rugby, no. I mean, you can't hit anyone if you don't have the ball, or if that person doesn't have the ball. So in a sense, you know, when you have the ball, somebody is gonna hit you in
Yeah.
the contact version of rugby. I mean, yeah.
Oh, I think it's a good point, because in a way you already know that you're going to be contact.
Yeah.
That's when, you know, injuries are less likely to happen, because
Yeah,
you know
injuries.
there's going to be.
Correct.
You know, you get injured when you don't know, when it's unexpected. You know,
That's
I think
right.
it's a very
Yeah.
very good point. Well, has there been any like rule changes over the years from when you started, in terms of the safety wise?
Well, there has been
Yeah.
quite a number of revision to the rules,
Okay.
and exactly to your point, it
Yeah.
is because of safety more than anything else.
Mm.
And incidentally, the reason why I kind of got into refereeing was because I snapped my ACL
Right.
from a now disallowed
Okay. And what was that?
act, and that is to tackle somebody in mid-air. So now, if
Okay.
somebody jumps up to catch a ball in mid-air, you're not supposed to hit him, for obvious reasons. But in the past, it was okay. So that
Okay.
was how I got injured. I snapped my ACL because I was jumping for the ball, and the guy hits me, and I landed on one leg. So you can imagine the
Right.
impact of his weight and my body weight on one leg only. So
Wow.
my ACL snapped.
Wow, that's interesting, right? The rule changes, and what would you say that you would have prolonged your career a little bit more?
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I did come back to. I mean, after I recovered fully,
Yeah.
I did come back to playing. I
Yeah.
did go back to playing.
Right.
But by then I was well. When I got injured, I took up refereeing as
Yeah.
a way to stay in touch,
Mm.
keep in touch with the game and
Nice.
stay connected with the game and all. And I was pretty good at that.
Yeah.
And so when I recovered fully, I went back to playing.
Yeah.
I was also coaching at the same time.
Right.
And then work got busy,
Yeah.
such that it was difficult to make time to attend team trainings and all. It was easier for me to train on my own in the pockets of time that I had.
To be a referee.
So I just kept myself fit, kept
Yes,
myself in the
yes.
game. It was easier that way.
Nice.
And eventually I decided, okay, I'm gonna take up match officiating or refereeing.
You said you did. You're good at it. I don't think you're good at it. You're much better than good. Because I'm just looking, right, and you refereed some very important games as well. And you refereed a SEA Games final in 2015.
That was when Singapore hosted.
Yes.
That was my swan song.
Right.
That was the last international tournament and game that I officiated in before I retired.
And you also officiated in the Asian Rugby Championship at the Tokyo Olympic Stadium. That was the last time that was
Yeah.
played there, or as in the stadium was there.
Yeah. So interesting that Olympics is now on.
Exactly.
And I must say, when I watched the opening ceremony and Naomi Osaka,
Yeah.
lit up the Olympic flame, right? So it really brought back memories because I refereed the last ever sporting event that was played at the Tokyo Olympic Stadium before it was demolished, and then they built this new stadium there.
So it's right at that same
that's
same
right.
location.
Yeah, and they lit the Olympic cauldron
Yeah.
for the last time as well before they demolished it. So there was a lot of significance there, and that's why I was really good when I sat there looking at watching the opening ceremony and then reflecting on that last game that I refereed the finals of the Asian Championship.
Brilliant. That's a wonderful story. I didn't know that as well. And you said you were good, right? So you won the referee of the year in 2010. What was the feeling like? And obviously, like as a player, right, you want to be maybe player of the year and what have you. And then you went on to become a referee, obviously, and then getting the referee of the year. How was that like? Must be a great feeling.
It was, I guess, a lot of the achievements. I must say, I'm thankful for having achieved all that.
Right.
Because it seems like I was at the right place at the right time often.
Yeah.
And just took advantage of the opportunity given to me or presented to me.
Right.
And yeah, they did well, fortunately.
I want to ask you this question, right? And I think it's a pretty interesting question as well. And you talk about you played the game. You played rugby. You refereed the game. You played football. Obviously, you didn't referee. Did you?
No,
No,
I
you didn't take
didn't.
the. Is it safe to say that it is easier refereeing a rugby match than a football match?
Okay, I haven't refereed a football game.
Okay.
But
This question is asked because you've watched. You played football.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously,
yes.
where referees are,
Yeah.
there are referees. Contact with referees. I'm talking about not contact, but So, do you think it is easier to referee a rugby game?
I think the culture is different, right?
You've been very diplomatic.
I wouldn't say whether it's easier or
Okay.
hard, because I do have close friends who are football referees, and I know they have to upkeep their fitness just as much as we do.
Okay.
In fact, when I go to major games, right, you walk into the room of all the match officials and the judges, you see a lot of old folks.
Okay.
And you know that they're coming from gymnastics and all that,
Okay.
judo.
Right.
And then you see all the fit fellas, then you know this must be either rugby referees or football referees,
Okay.
because they have
Yes.
to upkeep their fitness,
Yes.
right? And they look fit, therefore.
Right.
So I think the fitness demands are quite similar, but I would say that the culture is different in that the players respect the laws and respect the referees.
Right.
So you don't find rugby players arguing with the referee about certain decisions, even though it may be the wrong decision. And as referees, we know we are not perfect. We are humans after all. We do make mistakes. We try to reduce that as much as possible, and that's why we have assistant referees, and even for football now you have VAR, using technology to help us make that better decisions. Therefore, but I think it's the culture of respect that we have in rugby. I mean, I'm not a very big guy, but I've refereed really huge guys, and you have the huge guys looking down at you and then listening to you and nodding their head, behaving like a good student in school, right, to a teacher.
Obviously I come from a football background, and I find this so amazing. And I love that part, the respect part and the culture part, right? And the reason why I asked you, right, is it because it's truly, right, and they say this, rugby is a gentleman's sport, because you never see a player cursing the referee, swearing at the referee. Because you do get that a lot in football. And kids nowadays, when they watch the games on TV, you watch the EPL whatever, there's cursing going on every single minute, right? Every single decisions. And so that's the point I'm trying to make, because who would want to be a referee in a football match? I wouldn't. Seriously, it's crazy, And of course, although you make mistakes, but the amount of criticism you get, the swearing is ridiculous, and that's why I asked you. So it is a gentleman's sport.
Yeah, it is, and I would say it's built around the culture, even the laws of the game, right? Where, for example, if you do something wrong, I mean, you talk back at me, I can give you a yellow card, and in rugby, yellow card is different from football, right?
Okay.
Yellow card means you're off the field for 10 minutes.
It's like a sin bin kind of.
It's a sin bin.
Right.
So, I mean, if you value your team's performance, you wouldn't want to be sin bin, because your team will be one man short, and that could affect the team significantly, right? So I think that is it, and also the nature of the game. I said I like the contact in rugby, and that's why I love the sport. But it's also about getting up after you get hit. For as long as it's a legal challenge, it's a legal tackle. No matter how hard it is, you get hit, you got to get up and you go again. So that, in essence, to me, builds resilience, builds determination. Bouncing back up from adversity. So there's a lot of life lessons to be transferred from the game itself.
Brilliant, and I read the book Legacy by James Kerr, about the All Blacks. Wonderful, isn't it? The top stars cleaning the dressing room.
That's right, cleaning the sheds.
Yeah, brilliant, man. That's a brilliant book. Just going back a little bit, right? You refereed, you played the game, and obviously took part, or you not took part, you were selected for the national team. How was that, donning the national colours with the badge on the chest? How was that feeling like?
I think anybody who represents the country will feel, a strong sense of pride. And again, the Olympics is now ongoing, and you see, the kind of pride that the athletes show when they win a match, or even they do their personal best. And of course, for the gold medalists standing on the podium and having the flag raised and singing the national anthem, is something that I wanted to have that, and that sort of pushed me on to do as best as I could. And again, I was fortunate to have been selected into the national team.
Right. What kind of attributes do you think? You see, I'm just like going back and forth, because as you're talking and I'm listening, and it's great, right? Great insight. And what kind of qualities do you need to be a rugby player?
You need to have the brains.
Okay.
There's a lot of laws in rugby, so you really need to be thinking player. But I guess that goes for all the other sports as well, right? You cannot just be bronze only, although rugby is a contact sport, but there's a lot of thinking. There's a lot of anticipation, there's a lot of space awareness, peripheral vision, hand-eye coordination. And if you look at the game of rugby, you can see that it's actually a mix of many different sports. There's kicking, so it's like football.
True.
There's handling ball, just like handball. There's handling ball in mid-air, and that's really like basketball. There's throwing of the ball. So it's really, and of course the agility and so on, speed and endurance. So that's what I love about rugby. It's a mix of different skill sets that you can find in different sport. And the other wonderful thing about rugby is there is a place for everyone, regardless of the size and shape that you come in.
Really?
Yeah. Of course, now you will find that typically you have a little bit more uniform sizes,
right.
But there will still be that variation. You have the round kind, then they'll be in the forward pack. There'll be what they call the prop in terms of position. The tall and lanky fellas will be the second rowers, or the locks they call them.
How about a shorty like me, 165?
Well, the shorty like you, it's not about the height, it's whether you have the strength. And of course the other attributes as well, the agility, the speed, and so on. So you can play a position like a halfback. Which is one of the positions that I used to play. Because relatively speaking, I'm not the biggest on the pitch.
Great insight. Tell me a few of your memorable moments playing for Singapore itself, like your experiences.
I mentioned earlier how I felt fortunate to have been selected to the national team, and that came about really because I was, again, happened to be in police serving my national service, and spent 9 months as officer cadet trainee. And because I played rugby in Sec 4 and then continued on to JC, and then went on to play combined schools. So when I went to police and they had a rugby team, obviously I want to be part of that. And also because the rugby team, the police team it was during their golden era. And most of the players there played for the national team. So I being a trainee, so whatever the coach tells you, right, even when they're punishing me for being late, I will have my officer cadet training, and then I will get to the pitch late, and the coach will say, "Hey, Azhar, you're late again." So you don't even complain, or you don't even give an excuse to say that, "But coach, I had training," he said 10 rounds punishment, I just went 10 rounds. So I was there every single training session. Whatever they tell me to do, I did it. And I guess I was rewarded because the first game in the club championship that I took part in, and that was against Singapore Cricket Club, the coach actually stood down 2 of the national team players. So you're 15 on the pitch, and 13 are national team players. And there's just 2 of us, myself and one other teammate, Razali. The only 2 guys who are not in the national team. So that game that we played against SEC, the national selectors were there present.
Beautiful.
So they were saying like, who are these 2 fellas? We don't know them. And the fact that they made it to the police team means they must be of certain substance. And fortunately, the 2 of us played really well that day. I guess it's because you're playing alongside national team players, good players, so you kind of elevate, and they help to elevate you as well in terms of your playing performance. And I got selected into the under 23 team, so I kind of skipped I didn't play for the under 20 team. I went straight into playing for the national under 23 and subsequently to the senior team.
Beautiful. That's great. And obviously, you started coaching a little bit, rugby coaching as well. Was that your first stint as a coach in a sports situation, or did you do any?
Yeah, that was
how was
pretty much it.
How was it like?
I mean, I'm an educator, right? I'm a trained teacher,
yes.
but I didn't set out to become a teacher. I just love sports. Yes, rugby was something that I did a lot more than anything else. But I love sports in general. So I knew I wanted to have a career in sport. And I didn't come from a well-to-do family, so my parents don't have that money to send me overseas just to do like sports studies or sports science. And there wasn't anything in Singapore as well. But there was that PE teacher thing, right?
Yes.
So I said, okay, if I sign up, I apply to NIE, everything is paid for, I get a bit allowance, so I thought it was a good deal. So although I didn't set out to be a PE teacher, that was the option that I thought could allow me or allowed me to take part in sports. So I went that pathway. But then when I got into it, I kind of fell in love also with teaching.
So actually, you know, obviously we all know, right? Because as educators, we know that there's the element of coaching as well. You know, so I think it probably it was a little bit, I wouldn't say easy, but a little bit easier for you to do the coaching side of things with the rugby teams as well, right? I think I'm sure it is well done. Now, what has the game of rugby taught you? You know, as a player, as a referee, and also as a coach, right? What the qualities that has stuck with you throughout?
I guess the qualities that we have is really shaped from the experiences, our upbringing. So I mentioned earlier that I don't come from a well-to-do family. My dad worked 2-3 jobs just to to bring food on the table. And as a young kid, we never knew that, right? We never knew that our father actually had to do multiple jobs. And we see food on the table every time, and it's good food. And you don't think much of it.
Take it for granted, right?
You take it for granted, until you get older, then you realize that, oh man.
When we start doing it, when we start working.
And of course, when start to understand a little bit more about, you mature, and then you understand, wow, actually my dad did a lot. And that taught me about the importance of hard work. And I brought that, attribute as a player in rugby as well. So one of the reasons why I got selected into the national team that subsequently selected to different tournaments was really the fact that I had a very high work rate. So I'm blessed with good fitness, so I'm usually one of the fittest guys on the team. I could play different positions, so sometimes I get into the team because I'm a utility player.
You're versatile as well.
I'm versatile, so that was the strength that I had to be able to play different positions. So it taught me about the importance of hard work, importance of being resilient. I mentioned earlier about how in rugby, you get hit, no matter how hard, you just gotta take it in, suck it in, get up and go again. So those are the attributes that really are important in rugby. I suppose it's important in all sports as well.
That's a wonderful tagline for this podcast itself, right? It's about hard work. It's about working hard and work ethics. Well done, brilliant. Let's go a little bit into your teaching, your educator role, right? And I put here one of the questions was why teaching? Was it a calling? And obviously it wasn't like because you liked PE and you liked the sports part of thing, right?
But I must say that my parents used to teach Quran reading at home. So I kind of saw two teachers in action, and I've got lots of aunties and uncles who are teachers in MOE. So, but like I said earlier, I didn't sign up to NIE first and foremost to be a PE teacher. I just wanted to do sports. And then of course I grew to learn. I grew to love teaching.
You started in 1998 in terms of the teaching part, right? And throughout these years, educating students at whatever levels, coaching and whatever, right? But in terms of the imparting skills and imparting knowledge, right? Is there a motto or principle that you follow, while or being an educator?
I believe that every child can learn, and we should provide an opportunity for them to learn. And regardless of whether in PE, sometimes we say, oh, this boy has got 2 left foot, and then we say, okay, give up. But I think that should not be the way. I think there's always opportunities for us to explore different ways in which we can get that student or get that child to develop. So I believe very strongly in that every child can learn, and we should provide that opportunity for them to learn. And of course, those whole idea about student-centered or learner-centered approach to teaching or to coaching, and that's something that I subscribe wholeheartedly to. I also believe strongly in this concept of teaching or coaching for understanding.
Right.
So we should not be, the products of our education system should not be kids who only will do things if they are told to do so, but rather they do it because they know why they're doing it, and they're intrinsically motivated therefore to do it. So and that influenced my coaching philosophy. I believe that the role of the coach is to make himself redundant. So you set up training practices such that you develop individuals, you develop athletes and players who can be independent of you. And if you think about it, when they go out there to play on the pitch or on the court or what have you, they are making so many decisions, right, throughout the entire game. And you can't possibly be making the decisions for them. They need to make those decisions on their own. And so how do you do that? You have to develop, or you have to design your training sessions such that you allow them to problem solve, you allow them to explore and fail, discover, really try to find out for themselves what work, what don't. And that way they develop into a truly thinking athlete or thinking player.
Azhar, I think you as experienced as you are, we've seen this, right? The remote controls at the sidelines. It's really annoying. Exactly.
And then you have it's still happening,
of
right?
course.
That's what I mentioned.
Exactly.
Coaches shouting from the sideline and all that, which is something that if you look at rugby, is very different. I mean, at a professional level, the rugby coaches are not on the pitch side.
Okay.
They are up on the box.
So they have no chance of doing that.
They have no chance. They are not shouting at the players. Of course, they've got comms and their message, but you don't have them at the sidelines in a technical box like football, and then shouting at the players. Right. And that again is the culture that shapes the coaches to then develop players who, like I said, right, are independent or not reliant on you. They're all thinking players, making decisions on their own.
Excellent stuff, and I like that about the understanding part, coaching with understanding, right? Because they need to know why.
Correct.
And it's a very, like you say, it's the educational system, right? You just feed, and then they just take it as it is.
And that's how education has evolved as well.
Exactly.
In the past, I tell you what to do, and then you just do it, right? And you don't question teachers. We have gone a long way, come a long way in that we want students, we want our players and athletes, therefore, to question us, right? So that they understand why they're doing what they're doing, not just because I tell you so. So that's how we develop truly independent learners, truly independent thinkers, and of course good players.
One way to elicit that, the understanding part, is also to ask questions instead of telling them, no, don't do this. It's also by asking them questions. Why do you think you're doing this? And then they will start thinking rather than just feed them stuff, right?
Often they have the answers.
Right.
It's just that you need to elicit that by very good questioning. So that's part of good pedagogy, whether it's teaching or coaching. It's about the ability to ask good questions and elicit the information from the players or the students.
What was your role when you were the assistant head at NIE? Obviously you rose up the ranks, right? Teacher, lecturer, and then before that, right? When you started teaching in 1998, did you ever think that you would be this? You could go up all the way to become the assistant head at NIE.
No, I mean, call me lack of ambition, but
come on,
I didn't. I didn't. Well, you can say that some people, they start on their career and they say that in 5 years' time, I want to see myself being a HOD. It wasn't the case for me. I started as a teacher, then they say, hey, we need someone to be a boarding master. I say, okay, why not? So I'm someone who is up for challenges and ready to take up, learn new things and explore new things. So when they say, hey, you want to do this boarding master. I said, yeah, sure.
Right.
Then of course I did well.
Mm.
I proved myself, and they say, okay, we want to appoint you to, those.
Yeah.
First, initially it was group head for sports, and then became PE HOD
Right.
for PE and CCA.
Yeah.
And then after that, I joined NIE as a teaching fellow.
Mm.
Then I guess I did well enough to then become a lecturer, senior lecturer, and assistant head for teaching.
So as an assistant head at NIE, what was your role predominantly like? Like what was your role there?
Well, exactly what the title suggests is to improve teaching.
Yeah.
Because we are the teachers of teachers, right?
Right.
So we must make sure that we are exemplary of teaching, we are current in terms of the pedagogy that we use, as
Yeah.
well as what we are imparting to the student teachers. So in NIE and in NTU as well, we have student evaluation. At the end of each course that we teach, the student will give an evaluation
Yeah.
of our teaching. And as a assistant head for teaching, I will look at that.
Yeah.
And for the lecturers who are not so strong, I come in to assist them in that aspect.
Right.
So to help them become better teachers essentially. So I
Right.
work very closely to improve their performance.
Right. Right.
And that role was really because I was inducted into the NTU's Nanyang Teaching Excellence Academy.
Right. Right.
And that was NTU's push also to improve the teaching standards at the university.
Right.
Very often when we have some of these academics coming to the university, they have very strong research background,
Right.
but they may not have the experience of being a teacher.
True.
So the pedagogy would be
Mm.
something that we believe is very important, because it's not just the substance that you have, right? It's how you deliver, how you put it across to the learners,
Right.
to make it engaging, to make it exciting, and people want to learn more.
Right.
So I was my role essentially is to improve the teaching standards amongst the lecturers.
It's basically like train the trainers.
kind
yeah.
of.
And was this for you specifically? Was it more to the PE side, or is it general in general teaching?
It was specifically to the PE and sports science academic
Nice.
group.
Nice.
So the faculty there.
Great.
I also oversee the teaching practice. So our trainee teachers go out to schools every
Yeah.
single year,
Right.
get attached to school, and
Yeah.
then to spend
Great.
between a week and 3 months.
Right.
So I coordinate that. I coordinate the allocation of supervisors, so the academic staff,
Right.
when they go out there to supervise the students. So I prep them to be able to do that work well as well.
Mm. You are so good at what you do. You were nominated for the Nanyang Education Award.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the highest award for teaching excellence at NTU. That alone, it must have meant like a win to you.
Prior to that, I did receive
Yes.
commendation
Right,
award
right.
at NIE, and then after that, when you do it consistently,
Right.
then they nominate you for
Yeah.
the next higher level,
Yeah.
and that was the NEA, the Nanyang
Mm.
Education Award.
Yeah.
So I managed to get that at the PSS level.
Right.
And then also at the NIE level, which is the next higher level, and subsequently the following year I was nominated for that top award.
So it's a.
But it was just a nomination. There were a lot of really brilliant academic staff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, as you say, I was
Okay, let me
just
ask you.
fortunate and happy to be nominated.
Let me ask you: was that a disappointment, or was that you feel good already? This tells me something about you. Tell me your answer.
Okay, like, it would be nice to have won the award, but it was good enough to have been nominated.
Right.
And I guess,
I see a little bit of disappointment in your eyes.
no, as a sports person,
Great.
you always tell yourself, if you lose to a better team, you just gotta acknowledge that, right?
Yeah,
So
of course.
the better academic staff won that award that year, so I'm happy for them.
No, but really, seriously, I truly understand if you are or you were disappointed at that time, because this is what we are as sports people, and we just want to win. That's it, right? And obviously you want to win the right way, correct way, and whatever. And when you lose, you feel like shit, basically, especially if you lose in a big game or whatever, and then for the next few days you just don't want to speak to people. And that's how I am, and I'm sure that's how you as well.
That's typical of sportsmen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I must say I have that competitive streak in me.
Right.
Although sometimes I say no, it's not true. And then my friends or my colleagues particularly will say no, you're super competitive.
Right.
I guess you need a little bit of that in order to push to the limits and compete at the highest level.
Now, as a teacher, obviously teaching kids, adolescents, and even training the trainers, adults, right, and coaching as well, right?
Yeah.
What gives you the most satisfaction? Like not the most, but probably a little bit that gives you that sense of satisfaction.
I would say at the lesson level, when
Yeah.
when you go into a classroom and you're teaching, right? You certainly for me, and I'm sure many other teachers, you feel a strong sense of gratification, and you can't put the money to it, right? It's just a strong sense of satisfaction, gratification when you know that your students have learned, they've engaged themselves truly, and they want to come back for more, right? And they're asking for more. So I think that's the greatest satisfaction as a teacher. And also for me, it's really, really satisfying when you read or when you hear about your students, outdoing you.
Okay.
So if I find a lot of satisfaction when I read, my former students, got the Excellence Youth in Teaching Award.
Nice.
Right? Or President Teachers Award.
Nice.
Something that I never got, not that I wanted to. There wasn't those awards back then. But you feel the really sense of satisfaction and pride, of course. We were proud of what they've achieved. And you tell yourself, there was a little bit of influence on my part in the development of that person, and especially when they stay connected with you and ask you out for drinks, every now and then, and they share, share very openly and honestly how you have impacted them when they were in school. So, money aside, that is really what teachers are after. And I guess you say calling, right? Just like nursing, teaching is a calling. So that is the calling that we want, and that's why we took up teaching in the first place.
It's wonderful that you say that, right? And sometimes to me it's not about the medals that you win as a coach or as a player or whatever. Sometimes it's even words, right? Somebody says, thank you so much for helping me, blah blah blah. It's like,
and it's powerful.
And that there's a sense of gratitude from the students themselves. Sometimes some of them obviously just move away, but there are some really, really good kids out there who just say thank you so much. That's enough, right? And you feel,
or they write notes.
Yes.
So I'm sure you do as well. We keep all these love letters or thank you notes from our students, and I never throw them away.
Nice.
And every now and then you take it out and you reflect, and it sort of if the fire was kind of doused a little bit, it kind of reignite. In the moments of frustration or disappointment, you recall those messages by your student and say, no, I gotta get over this.
Beautiful.
So teaching is one of those profession, and again you will know this, that no matter how terrible your day is, right, when you walk into the classroom, you put that all aside and you're a different person, because you have the responsibility to ensure good learning for the students, right?
Exactly. Now, Azhar, tell me about CoachSG now. I think it's a new so-called chapter, and you joined them in year 2018. And now obviously you're the director of Coach Singapore, right? What is that exactly? Tell us.
CoachSG is an academy that sits within Singapore Sport Institute, and that obviously is in SportSG. And it came out from the recommendation by the Vision 2030 committee.
Okay.
So I'm sure you probably heard of that. So one of the recommendations is the setting up of a coaching academy. And really based on the recognition that coaches are indeed the multipliers in terms of positive sporting experiences, right? Just like teachers, I guess. So the academy was set up to nurture these multipliers, nurture the coaches, because it's important for every participant in sport to have a positive experience, positive first experience in sport, so that they continue to engage in a sport all the way to through adulthood. So it's important for us to make sure that our coaches are really strong to have that effect. So that was how it was started. So in 2017, CoachSG was founded or was formed, and so we were quite in our infancy in terms of development, and of course can't compare to a lot of other established coaching academies elsewhere. But we made it a point to be connected with them, to form partnerships and collaboration with these established institutions, including Sport New Zealand, High Performance Sport New Zealand, because we are ambitious, typical Singapore, right? Very ambitious. So we aspire to be a world-class center for coaching and leadership.
Nice.
CoachSG.
Right. So you, how does this work now? So you obviously work with the different within Singapore, right? With the NSAs.
Yeah.
All the NSAs in Singapore.
That's right.
Right. And so how do you engage them and engage the coaches then? How is that?
So NSAs are integral in our work, so they are strong partners. We can't achieve what we have achieved without them. They are the governing bodies, so we work closely with them to curate or to develop a coaching curriculum that will enable the development of good coaches. So we have evolved in terms of previously you or many of the listeners may be familiar with the NCAP, right, the National Coaching Accreditation Program that we borrowed from Canada. So that has evolved to become the SG Coach or the Singapore Coach Excellence Program. That of course is in the revision is because of the latest in contemporary pedagogy in coaching, latest in sport science knowledge. So curriculum can never remain static. It has to evolve over time. So that's what we've done, and what we've done also is to integrate the different components of formal coaching education as much as possible. So you have your coaching theory, you have your sport science, and you have your technical, whether it's football or basketball, all integrated into one. So that the coaches will learn about the theories and immediately will know, how do I apply it in basketball, how do I apply it in netball. So that's how we have shaped the current formal education for coaches here in Singapore.
So this is a very good topic, because I'm a coach, and obviously there are coaches who's going to listen to this, right? So let's say now I'm a new coach, right? Football, for example, right? So I do my what is it? AFC, C, B, and A. That was how I went through, basically, right? So how is it going to go through now with the CoachSG in place? How does that work?
So because we work collaboratively with the NSAs. So football, for example, FAS follows the AFC syllabus. But we insist that there must be some components that are in the Singapore context, and also some additional knowledge about coaching theory, coaching theory or sports science, that we believe strongly that the coaches must have to be a professional coach, to be a good coach. So we integrate that all together, and we run it via like a revised version or enhanced version of the AFCC. So that's how we work with the different NSAs, because quite a number of them have got syllabus from the IF, the International Federation, and that's usually just focuses on the technical, as in what to coach. So we need
specific to the sport.
Exactly. But there is a need to equip our coaches with the art of coaching, the how to coach, not just what to coach.
Of course.
So they get it through the other parts of the curriculum in this integrated
So obviously right now, let's say if somebody's going to take their C, this coaching, the theory part and the component will be integrated into the C.
It's now integrated.
I get it now. So it's that's loads to do, basically, especially if you think about in different sports and stuff. So you have your responsibility. Responsibility is pretty.
I mean, we have our hands tied in that sense. You're right, because there are 65 NSAs. So there's a lot of NSAs to work with. I'm fortunate that I have a team of like-minded individuals who share the vision of wanting us to be positioned as a world-class center for coaching and leadership. Most of them are former coaches, former teachers, or even currently active coaches. So they come with that belief, that philosophy about coaches and about coaching here in Singapore. So that certainly has helped drive. And of course, the NSAs who are really aligned to this. It makes the job easier when everybody is aligned to the same cause.
Right. And I totally get this part about it's not only knowing about that sport, right? Because coaching is just like teaching. You got to know how to teach it, how to put it across to the players. So that's a very important part. So that's where this comes in, right? The pedagogy and stuff like that. Because if, for example, if you go to a C license straight direct, you do get a little bit of that, but not in full module, one module on its own. Like how do you coach? That kind of material. So it's very important, and I totally get that. Now, one of the modules is delivery methods, right? One of it, delivery methods. Now, how important, in your opinion, is that module? Because you obviously you are running it, right? And you're running it. So how important to you is that? Delivery.
So we always talk about coaching as there is an art and there is a science to it. So the art is where we equip coaches with the how to, and therefore the pedagogical knowledge to be able to deliver that tactical aspects of that sport. So I think it's critical, and that's why I would say that not all national team players or national athletes can become good coaches. So they are national athletes because they are very sound in their techniques, right? So technical, very, very sound, and that's why they're national athletes, right? But not all can be good coaches.
True.
Because there is that pedagogy element, there is that art there for you to be able to deliver effectively and get the kind of responses and therefore performance also from your athletes or your students and so on.
Yes. And that's one of the modules. What other kind of modules can coaches expect? One is delivery methods. What other
we changed that to coaching methods, but it's similar. But the first module is about your coaching philosophy and practices. We wanted to get that straight out in the start because we want to send a signal that you must be here for the right reasons. You must be here because you have passion for sport. You might make a difference in the lives of children or anybody, any learners for that matter. So when we get that out of the way, then coaches are all aligned in terms of, okay, this is what sport can do, right? And we know about the power of sport. And as a coach, I have the power to influence people positively. And we talk about sport as a force for good, right? We can shape, we can use sport to teach all the attributes that we talked about earlier. We can teach character, we can teach leadership, all through the vehicle called sport. And sport can really bring people together. So that's the power of sport, and therefore coaches hold a very powerful position. We want to make sure that they come into the course with that right kind of thinking, right kind of attitude. Some may not necessarily see that as a calling as yet, but they have a philosophy that's aligned to it. And they will say that, okay, a coach must be professional. So what does it mean to be professional? We coaches must be early, right? Not just punctual, but early, because you need to set up, the equipment and all that. Okay, so from today onwards in our coaching course, everybody must be early, right? So you set the standards right from the get-go. When we have that coaching philosophy and practices being the first module of any coaching course.
I love this. That's the best. That's the best start, isn't it? Because I get this a lot, and I know, because there are different reasons to becoming a coach. There are different reasons to becoming a teacher, for example. But just coaching wise, just because you've done this, it's you can't be a great coach or whatever. The head must be right, the heart must be right, because you don't want to be going there just to pick up the dollars at the end of the day.
That's right.
You want to go in with the right, because it's very easy to be a coach, right? Just get your certs and just do your coaching, right? But it's not that. It is really not that. It's it's in the head. It has to be right, and it's a very great thing that you said there.
Interesting, you mentioned that it's easy to become a coach, and that's something we are changing. So
on paper, it's easy.
Right. So we're changing that because we don't believe that coaching is something that has got a low barrier to entry. You must ensure that whoever comes in must spend. You talk about standards, and that's exactly it, right? So at CoachSG and the NSAs as well, working in tandem with us, we are the gatekeepers to the coaching profession. So we cannot let anybody in just like that. In other countries, coaches are seen at the same level as doctors and lawyers.
Wow.
We are not quite there yet.
Yeah.
But yeah. That's kind of aspirations, because if you really want people to have a positive experience in sport, physical activity or physical education, then the coach or the teacher must be a strong person. And teaching in Singapore is like that, right? It's high standards. So we want to elevate the coaching profession as well, and that's why we are working towards shaping a new narrative for coaches and coaching in Singapore. That is really people who are passionate about sport, passionate about making a difference to the lives of others through sport. So that's something that we aspire to do.
And Azhar, keep doing the things that you do, and keep maintaining, or not maintaining, just make the bar go higher, man. Because it's important, and reputation at the end of the day is very, very important. Because your name gets around, and this guy is a football coach, but he's
exactly, precisely.
Name gets around, and you don't want that, especially in Singapore. Great point. In your opinion, now again, don't want to be ruffling any feathers or whatever, what are the strengths and weaknesses of a local coach at the present moment, as whatever your opinion is, your strengths and weaknesses of a local coach or local coaches in general?
The industry study that we did, obviously we do a lot of we want to do more, but we do a bit of research, studies and data analysis to inform our decision making. So we have found that a high percentage of our coaches here in Singapore have got a background as a player in that sport.
What percentage is that? Oh, this is interesting. More than 50? More than 50.
It's about 65 to 70%.
In all sports, right?
Yeah.
In general.
They have some kind of background playing the sport. So it's not like I'm a nobody or I don't play the sport before and then I want to go into coaching. I don't think that person will make a good coach. So
interesting point. Never mind. Carry on. It's a good point.
So because of that, they have played the game, they understand the game, they understand the context, and that puts them in a better position to take up coaching. So I would say that's one of the strengths of a Singaporean coach. I would also say that Singapore, right, we're all strong in English language.
Are we?
We like the Singlish, we like the Hokkien and whatever else, right? And we use all these things. But I think because we can speak English, you see that some of our coaches have gone overseas and have done well, right? Because they can speak English. So you have Coach of the Year in the Malaysian Football League, right? Coach of the Year, Singaporean in the Indian Premier League.
Akbar.
Right? That's right. So I think it's because they have a good command of English, easy for them to go everywhere. In Asia and elsewhere as well. Also because we are living in a multiracial, multi-religion sort of a society, I think we understand the different races, the different culture, the different religion. So I feel that's a strength to be able to relate to people who are different. To be able to then go to a different country altogether if they are applying their trade overseas, and then be able to connect or learn about their culture and be able to connect. So I think that's one. Of course, education level in Singapore is quite high. We often feature in the top 3 in the teams and PISA ranking of the world. So our education level suggests therefore that our coaches have got the intellect to be able to grasp all this knowledge about coaching, pedagogy, sports science, whatever it may be, technical, and therefore be a good coach. So those would be the strengths.
Weaknesses?
Weaknesses would be, as we kind of alluded to just now, I feel honestly that some people are in there for the wrong reason. And I think we see it in some other professions as well. When the economy is not doing well, then people tend to look at and people get out of job, then they tend to look at occupations or jobs that allow them, that's got low barrier of entry, they can go in easily. But then you're going into that profession for the wrong reasons, right? You're going there because you can't find any other job. So I think we want to shift that away. So I would say that unfortunately there are some coaches who are not there for the right reasons, and that's something that as we build up this pool of very strong coaches, now that CoachSG was set up in 2017. Now it's 2021.
Okay.
So I like to think that there are stronger coaches now in the system.
Yeah.
I think the not so strong coaches will find themselves out of job because the better ones will just displace.
Right.
I mean, if you have a choice, right, you're
Of course.
spoiled for choice when you have a lot of coaches,
Yeah.
and you have 7 good ones and 3 good ones. Then the job will be given to the 7, and the 3 will find themselves either out of job
Right.
or find themselves being pushed to do something about themselves. Right.
True.
I need to upskill. If I don't upskill, then I'm gonna be left irrelevant. I'm gonna be obsolete, and therefore I'm gonna lose a job.
True.
So you have to be telling yourself: is this what we want?
Yeah.
Is this what I want?
Yeah.
Is coaching really my calling? Is coaching really what I want to do? Then, in order for me to continue that, then I need to upgrade myself. I need to constantly,
True.
develop myself professionally.
There was one point you brought up just now, and you talked about more than 50% of coaches have somehow or other or somewhat played the game before that, and that is probably one of the strengths, right? But that doesn't make that person a top coach, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, there needs to be more done there as well, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
So
okay.
we mentioned earlier about national athletes and how not all national athletes can become coaches.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be a national athlete to become a really, really good coach. I
Yeah.
mean, you look at EPL.
Yeah, of course.
You see some of the coaches there, they were never a national team player,
Yeah.
but they can be really, really good coach.
That's why it helps. Obviously, it helps, right?
Yeah,
in
obviously.
terms of the nitty gritty, the specifics of the game, it helps. But then, of course, that's where people like you come in with the added, how to teach, how to put it across.
The art.
Yeah, the
How,
art.
yeah.
Brilliant. Now let's do a little bit of you a little bit, right? Like up close and personal in terms of what you think and stuff like that. You are a very competitive person. I got this from someone you know, yeah, and that person said he's competitive. Like for example, if somebody in the office says do something, you're gonna go do that, and you want to win it, right? Is that how you are wired? Azhar?
Well, when I do the personality test, right?
Okay.
There is that element of competitiveness in me.
Yeah.
And we talk about how typical sportsmen have got that competitive self. But I think beyond that is really I'm up for challenges. So challenges sort of keeps me going.
Okay.
So when somebody said, "Hey, there's a competition," then I say, "Okay, there's a challenge."
Okay.
And of course, when you go into challenges, you want to do well.
You want to do it right,
Yeah,
basically,
you wanna do
right?
it
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
So I believe that if there's anything that's worth doing, it's worth doing well. Right? So you don't just go in for the sake of going and participate. I don't quite subscribe to that. Sometimes I do, but most of the time, I want to go in and I want to do it well.
I like that. I like that because if you want to go in, you might as well go all in, right?
Exactly.
Instead of
Yeah.
And okay, just a little bit, right? You say you're pretty fit, right? You're 48, right? What's your 2.4 km timing right now, roughly?
Roughly?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah. I've not run 2.4
In a while.
in a while. Yeah. So,
But 10 minutes is crazy fast. Now, for your age, it's crazy fast.
well, I've gone slower. I mean, I've become slower over the years from clocking sub 9 and 9 to now 10
Okay.
plus.
So listeners, if now you know why, right? He's competitive, and I'm sure while you are running as well, you think, I'm not going to go below a certain time as well. I'm sure. Let's say you set out to go for a 5-click run, for example. I don't think you want to go anything above 30. For example, I'm just giving you numbers, right? I'm sure.
Yep.
In fact, you've never gone above 30.
When you start running or whatever, I guess that's the competitive streak in me, right? Then you see somebody ahead of you and say, okay, there's no way I'm gonna go behind this guy, right? I love cycling. I do a lot of cycling now. So whenever I cycle on the road, I see somebody in front of me. Okay, I'm gonna chase that guy.
Right. Books. You wrote a couple of books. You're an author of a couple of books, right?
Yeah.
And one of it was about biking, right? Cycling.
Bike Republic.
Yeah, bike. And one more for kids, how to ride or something like that for tykes. Or something.
Yeah, Bike for Tykes.
Bike for tykes, right? What was your inspiration behind writing them?
For the children's book was really out of frustration.
Frustration?
More than anything
For
else.
kids who don't know how to ride.
Yeah, that I when you talk about cycling, and when you ask people, you know what, or maybe I can ask you this question, right? So when you're going to talk about cycling, what
Okay.
is the most important skill in cycling?
You asking, is this a trick question? Or?
No, it's not a trick question.
Wow,
Yeah.
it's a very good question, right?
Yeah.
Balance.
Balance, right? So if balance is, yeah, you're right.
I'm like, what is happening here? I'm being questioned on my podcast.
So balance is the most important.
Okay.
So why do we introduce kids to tricycle? Why do we introduce kids to bikes with training wheels? Which essentially you're taking away the opportunity to develop balance.
Azhar, spot on. Say this again, because and I know this through basically reading, right? And not from your book, but basically reading, right? And I introduced the balancing bikes instead of the
balance bike, the striders.
the striders, right?
Yeah.
So is that the right thing to do?
Yeah. So in the book it talks about getting kids to be on balance bike or strider, because the important thing about cycling is about balance. So it's out of frustration that I see even adults cycling with bikes with training wheels.
Okay.
So so essentially the book talks about how you can develop that balance, because the paddling part is the easy part.
Yeah.
Right? It's the balance that is the challenging part. So get that developed first through the balance bike, and then subsequently you introduce the paddling, the braking, the steering, and so on.
For listeners who are listening in, if you are frustrated over something, write a book. Go write a book. But really, right? It actually helps. And is there going to be a book about you?
No.
You should, Maybe you write a book about.
Don't know who's going to read the book.
Yeah, come on, there'll be many men.
I mean,
Seriously.
when you read about books about Alex Ferguson, for example, those are really inspirational people, right? And you read books, and you mentioned about legacy, right? And it talks about the team and the whole culture and the beliefs of that team. Better people make better All Blacks. So we kind of borrowed that, and we say that better people make better athletes, and that's how the coaches should approach their coaching. I don't coach them to become athletes. I coach them to become better people, and when they are better people, they become better athletes.
And that bugs me as well. Is the values, isn't it? What we teach, because sports. It's beautiful, because it's a way where we can teach the kids not about sports. It's actually the life.
We use sports.
Yeah, we use sports, and then the life values comes in. If somebody does something and you say, why do you do that? You can't. It's brilliant, right? And you said about writing a book, and those people are inspirational. Why do you think you are here?
Because I'm number 52 on the list.
because you are one of the rock stars who are inspirational. That's why.
You're too kind with your
No, seriously. And then so go get started, or maybe I should frustrate you with something, and then you start writing a book about yourself. Now, something else, right? Your role as the Deputy Assistant Commissioner
in police.
In police, right? And the first Malay officer to be promoted this highest rank in NS in the SPF. What does that mean to you?
I mean, it's something that you feel proud about. But as I said right at the start, I've been I count myself very fortunate to have been at the right place at the right time, being guided at the right place at the right time, being given that opportunity to develop myself. And I guess because my attitude is, okay, you want to do anything, you want to do it to the best of your ability, and I guess that's how I did my work well. I got recognized, and that's how you progress and rise up to the ranks.
Nice. And I want to ask you this, right? And obviously not the right person to ask. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Where do I see myself in 5 years' time? I don't know whether I'll still be in CoachSG, but even if I do leave...
Is that a hint or... It sounds like it.
I don't know, is my team listening?
they probably will after this.
I believe that it should never be about that person. And that's what I try to do. What I'm doing in CoachSG is to establish systems, right, and structures, so that it's not about Azhar. It's about what we believe in, our vision, our mission, and our goals, and to set up that systems and processes in place, and the culture as well, such that if I go and somebody comes in, we will continue to achieve all whatever aspirations that
Yeah.
we set for ourselves. So in 5 years' time, I would really like for us, CoachSG, to be that recognized world-class center for coaching and leadership. So that's something that I wish for
Nice.
in 5 years' time.
Nice. It's good to see you doing that as well as raising the bar, especially for coaches. It's very, very important.
Yeah, I mean, individually, I would say that teaching is really something that I love, something I strongly believe in, and sports as well. So in 5 years' time, you'll still see me being involved in teaching,
I'm
being
sure.
involved in sport. So I think that will never stop.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, before we go, right, any advice for young coaches or even someone wanting to be a coach at the moment? Maybe they're thinking, and like you said, right, some people like just fall into coaching and then their head is not at the right place, but they could be transformed.
That's right.
You can't just leave them out and say, no, you can't be a coach, right from the start. So what is your advice for young coaches, especially coming up?
I would say first, my advice for young people is to try different things, right? Explore, try new challenges, discover for yourself. Fail doesn't matter, try again, and that's how you get better, right? So I think explore those different things and find something that really interests you, something that will get you to get out of bed every single day with a purpose, with a cause, with a mission. So I think that will be the first thing. For people who really want to go into coaching or teaching for that matter, as we talked earlier, right? There is a calling there. There is something that's an intrinsic motivation to want to make a difference in people's lives. Whether you are doing through math or through a sport like football or rugby, doesn't matter. It's about wanting to make a difference in the lives of others.
Yeah.
So that must be the driving force behind your decision to be a teacher or to be a coach. So that's something that I strongly believe in. So if you don't have that, I suggest you explore other things that perhaps can will be something that you want to pursue in your career.
Mr. Azhar Yusof, thank you so much for being on this episode. And we talk about making a difference, like just what you said about the young coaches coming up, wanting to make a difference. I'm sure you have made a difference since 1998, since being a teacher, and obviously till now. And it has been, to me, a very inspirational conversation, seriously, because of what you've done and your values towards the coaching profession, especially, because that to me is very important at the moment. We need to get that right. We don't get that right, we don't get the whys of why you want to coach,
That's right.
you're gone. Or we are gone as a coaching, whatever you want to say. Thank you so much again.
Thank you for the invitation.
No problems. And listeners, this has been episode number 52. It has been an absolutely wonderful episode. And obviously, if you're listening and you haven't done so, at the end, follow the podcast. We are on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify as well. Till the next episode, the hustle beats talent when talent doesn't hustle. Cheers.